it's never too late. You will greatly affect your financial future, even if you start in your 50s.
Welcome to the Money Rewrite podcast, brought to you by City and County Credit Union. My name is Bailey.
And I'm Lucie.
On the Money Rewrite podcast, we take old money rules and we rewrite them for the new money world. We've all been given advice that was told to us with great intention, but things change and very quickly. And to conquer your goals, you need to know the facts to get started. So let's dive into it.
All right. Today we're going to be talking all about retirement, and we have a very special guest with us. We have Dave. He is a financial advisor with Servion. So Dave, can you just take a minute to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Dave Adelman. I'm a financial advisor with Servion Financial Advisors, helping City and County Credit Union members and employees. I've been a financial advisor since 2009. Prior to that, I was in mortgages. So I have a mortgage lending background, which kind of pairs nicely with, the whole finance thing. I love helping clients, members, just because I can have a very big impact in their life, and it's not just a one and done kind of thing, which I love. I get to see their journey. I get to see how well they accomplish their goals, and I get to find out, great stuff about them. And, I love talking to people. So.
Awesome. Well, we're really excited to have Dave here today because today's old money rule that we're breaking down is that you'll figure out retirement when you're older. And I think for a lot of us, when we get that first job or we first kind of move into the real world as an adult, retirement can feel kind of daunting because there's a lot of things that are competing for our budget, whether it's housing or groceries or gas prices. And so retirement can be one of those things that kind of falls to the bottom of the list. And it's like, I'll deal with that later. But then as we get older kind of feels like maybe it's not so far away and we need to revisit this and get started. And then sometimes we can start to panic. So we're excited to have Dave here today because we're going to be talking about everything you need to know about retirement planning for your 30s, 40s, and 50s, minus the shame spiral.
Yes.
So we're going to dive in with some questions for Dave and just pick his brain and get all the expertise.
Are you ready, Dave?
I am ready.
Okay, let's get started. So Lucie mentioned that the old money rule is you'll figure retirement out when you get older, which I think I've heard it a lot actually. And I think like parents and grandparents, they say, well, your employer will take care of you. And I think that's changed so much. So I just want to know, why was that a normal lesson that was being taught? Like, where did that come from?
So where that came from is you had what was referred to as the three-legged stool before with retirement savings. And so you would have some of your own savings. Typically, most employers had a pension. Now, 17% or so of employees actually have a pension. And then you have Social Security. So you have those three legs of the stool, which made it a very stable, sturdy retirement. Now, with very few people having that pension, you've lost a leg, basically. And that pension a lot of times made up 50 to 60% of somebody's retirement income. Sometimes it could be a little lower, but that's a pretty good number. So you lose that, and all of a sudden now, how do you make that up? And if you haven't planned for that, it can become a struggle. The other thing was with the invention of the 401k, which a lot of people have as an employer-sponsored plan, that sort of did away with a lot of pensions, but it also did it with no instruction for savers, so it was like, there's this great new thing, but no instruction manual for it. And they had to make up for the pension in order to be able to have enough to retire. And so I think that's kind of where it came from.
Which makes perfect sense. And I even think too, everyone will be like, oh, well, you have a 401k, you're set. Mm-hmm. And that's just changed so dramatically. Sorry, I was going to keep going. And
no,
this topic fascinates me because there's so much information out there and it's so hard to break it down.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming.
And hard to know too, like who you can trust, like who's certified, who's not, like what's realistic. So I think, Dave, you made such a good point that like pensions used to be like such a big thing, I think, with like our parents and grandparents. And a lot of employers aren't offering those today. So things have really changed in the landscape. And I think we get advice from those folks, well-intended, but sometimes it's just not realistic for today. So what do you think are like the biggest misconceptions that people have about retirement in their 30s, 40s, and 50s now?
In the 30s, I mean, I think probably the biggest misconception, Billy kind of hit on it, is I have a lot of time, you know, and really you do have a lot of time. You know, if you're going to retire at 65 when you're 30 years old, that's 35 years. But starting early is so important, because you need to save so much less the earlier that you start. I think that's probably the biggest misconception that hurts
Yeah.
retirement savers, I'd say.
Which, yeah, is iconic for 30s. And being in the 30 zone myself, it's very easy to think retirement is far out. But it's, I mean, selfishly, I'm actually calculating it now, even though I'm far from retirement. So, and then what about 40s?
So 40s, there's just a lot of competing priorities, you know, so not necessarily a misconception, but, you know, now we're in the spot where maybe I'll start to make it up. But then you get into a spot where you might have to be a caregiver for parents. You may have kids. You may have many more competing priorities, saving for education, all these things that make it tougher. So that's what I'd say in the 40s. And I don't think the 50s are really that much different. It's kind of just an extension, but hopefully people are farther along in their career and they're making more, so they can make a little more headway with that.
Yeah, especially in the 50s.
I listened to a podcast and they kind of talk about that, like late 30s, early 40s as like the messy middle, because that's like,
That's a good way to put it.
yeah, it's like maybe you've been like doing well, but like, man, kids are older, they've got activity fees and like all caring for your parents, all these things start to really like add up. And it's like life just gets messy in that point, and it just, there's a lot competing for your budget at that time. So
for sure.
I think that's a good call out.
And so with all that said, what is a realistic place to start? Let's break it down further. Let's say I'm at my 30s, maybe late 20s, early 30s, getting my first job, starting out my life, maybe first home. Where do I start? What's a realistic plan?
So first thing I would say is an emergency fund, emergency savings. The rule of thumb typically is 3 to 6 months of living expenses.
Which is a great dream, but is not always realistic. So
Yes.
don't feel bad if you don't have that. 'Cause I do not.
And so where we start is just starting.
Yes.
You know, and so set a goal for the next year to get a month maybe, you know, and break it down each month. What do I need to save to have 1 year's worth, or I'm sorry, a month of expenses 1 year from now, and then set it up automatically. And ideally, if it's an account that, you know, our accounts are so easy to get to, everything's electronic, but ideally maybe even set it up somewhere else, or make it a different account that, you know, that, you know, it's not there, I'm not going to touch it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yep.
And then what if I'm ready then? I have that, which I only joke because
No,
3
absolutely.
to 6 months, when people hear
It's a lot.
that, it is a lot. And then it's easy to say I'm not going to do it at all. But let's say I have that foundation started, I have those automatics, and now I'm ready for investment piece to talk about retirement.
Yep.
What does that look like?
So I would start with, if you have the employer plan, if you've got that 401k, or if it's called something else, it doesn't matter. If it has a match, you have to maximize that. So say your company matches the first 5% that you put in, $1 for $1. You put in 5% of your pay, then you get a 5% match from the company, typically like in February or March. That's 100% return on your investment that you have to take advantage of, if at all possible. That would be the first place that I would start. After that, if you can do that, I would look into a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA, because those are going to be tax advantage savings accounts. And that would be the next step after that employer sponsored plan.
Can you break down like what an IRA is? Because I remember, this is really embarrassing. When I went to open mine, I was like, I called my brother on the phone. He's an accountant. And I was like, I need to like get this set up. I need to roll some funds over. So like, tell me verbatim, like what I need to say when I walk in. And she's like, we need a brokerage account. And I was like, I'm actually just here for an IRA. And she's like, well, this is like the first step. And then we do that. And I was like, okay, cool. I don't really understand what's happening, but like, but I have my notes. So can you break down like what that even is and how it functions, and maybe like how it's different from an employer sponsored plan?
Sure. So, an employer sponsored plan is exactly that. It's sponsored by your employer. They're going to use an investment provider, and the menu of investment options is going to be determined by the employer based on the investment provider that they use. So there may be 25 or 30 options for you. There's not, a whole world of options. With an IRA or a Roth IRA, typically you're going to have many, many more options depending on what provider you go with, what advisor you go with. It just depends on how they run their business. But with the IRA, it's a pre-tax savings account. And so when you put money in to that, when you file your taxes, you're going to be able to reduce your taxable income. While that money is in that IRA, that money is going to grow tax deferred, meaning that you don't pay taxes on it along the way. And when you go to take that money out, based on some IRS rules, you have to be 59 and a half, otherwise you're penalized. That money, then you pay tax on what you've put in as well as any of the gain.
And where does one go for an IRA?
Where does one go?
Because it sounds very magical, but I'm not sure how that is.
There's a whole bunch of different places that you could go to for an IRA. So let's use city and county as an example. City and county has the ability to open up an IRA, a Roth IRA. Their accounts are going to be interest-bearing accounts. So they're going to be kind of simple. They're going to be safe and stable. You could open up an online IRA account, which would have, you mentioned brokerage, which would have a brokerage account behind it. The IRA is the container that sits on top of the brokerage account that has a certain tax treatment by the IRS, in effect.
So the brokerage is like kind of your foundational bucket, and then you can set these other buckets on top of it that have different
the
IRS
brokerage
treatments.
is the window that allows you to have investment options that are greater than or what in your employer sponsored plan. So like a brokerage would be a Fidelity, a Schwab.
Okay.
For us, it's Cetera Advisor Networks. That's the independent broker dealer that we do business through. Yep.
Got it. Okay.
That's what the brokerage is. It opens up the investment world to an individual.
And this is probably very not compliant to say, but it's basically like the bank where you get your IRA account.
Yes.
But not compliant. So just
Yes.
don't mark that as like this is legal. That is how my brain is breaking it down because
Thank you.
retirement is confusing. And like I think about like I have my 401k, I have a brokerage person.
Yeah.
No, brokerage.
Yeah. So depending on what capacity they work in, you could act as a broker or fiduciary. Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. What if somebody wants to start on their own? I know there's a lot of apps coming out. There's a lot of fintechs coming out to say like you can plan your own retirement.
Yep.
What are your recommendations there?
So if it's the difference between not doing anything and using an app, absolutely use an app. Anything that gets you started saving automatically, and especially if it's low cost, absolutely go ahead and do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's a ton of good ones out there. Acorns is one. I'm not doing a plug or anything. We have nothing. We have no relationship, but I mean, I know a lot of people use Acorns, and that's.
But that's what this
one.
podcast was built for, is like realistic tips and tricks of what's actually happening when people are using. So that's very fair to say.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can even with like the bigger brokerages, their investment limits are tiny. Like there's online, the ones that you would see advertised.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I think for a lot of us, when we're first getting started, those apps are really helpful because it's a really easy barrier to entry. Like you can just plug it in on your phone and get started. But as someone who's moving through life and maybe things are getting more complicated, what does that process look like? Switching over to an advisor? Can you talk about like some of the benefits if somebody wants to work with you?
Sure. So the apps are simple, like you said. And so an advisor's job truly is to simplify things and help an individual understand their goals, help them figure out, hey, what do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish? What's important to me? Put a date on those. When do I want to get there? And then help them with, hey, this is our next best step. So then they can feel like, hey, we've got some momentum. We conquer this next step. What's that next best step from there? And so I think that's why somebody might go away from just an app or pair it with that app.
Mhm. And if I come to see you or I work with a financial advisor, what do I need to prepare before I even come into the door?
So everybody's going to be different. But for city and county members, we want to make it easy. City and county employees as well. Bring yourself, bring your curiosity, bring any questions that you've ever wanted to ask. There's no bad question. There's nothing that should be embarrassing, because the more you know, the more you're going to be empowered, the more you're going to be able to make decisions that greatly affect, your financial life. So
And I got to make a plug for Dave because Dave is like the dad you want in your corner to tell you exactly what to do. And it's in such a patient way. Retirement for me is so far out that like I don't want to learn anything about it. And Lucie, I would say you're opposite.
Yeah, I'm like, let me dive in.
Yeah. And so
Let me sit with Dave all day and just talk to him.
yeah,
Pick his
and
brain.
I'm like, Dave, just tell me what I should do. And you've been able to teach us both something. So I couldn't recommend it enough, actually. And the patience is great.
thank you.
Yeah.
I have, I think, one final question for you. I want to retire and early. I love my job though, City and County Credit Union, shout out. But I think retirement sounds pretty great. How can people track their progress or have markers without obsessing over it to
Sure.
the point where you turn into a crazy person?
Sure. Okay. So let's use the age brackets, the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. These are general rule of thumb. This is nothing set in stone, because, if somebody can live on less or somebody wants more, these numbers are going to be different. In your 30s, you should have 1 times your salary saved. That's kind of traditional rule of thumb. In your 40s, you want to have 3 times saved. Obviously, if you get raises, you raise that up. So you make $100,000 and you're 40 years old, it would be good to have $300,000 saved to be on track.
Okay.
In your 50s, it's 6 times, and in your 60s, it's 8 times plus. Just depends on what you're looking to do. But those are rules of
Good
thumb.
benchmarks.
Yeah, that's a good metric.
And know that those funds should be in a retirement account. That's not like in your
Ideally,
savings
those
account.
that can be a combination of everything, but ideally that should be retirement funds that's invested in the market, so you're getting a good return over time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's helpful. I've never heard it put that way. And when I look at my accounts right now, my different retirement accounts, I see the numbers and then I look at the stocks and where things are changing. And I finally had to stop logging in because it's kind of a mental game.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah. To
Maybe not every day.
No, to not check as often, because,
Yeah.
no, because people, the more you look at it, if you're somebody that may get anxious about that, that's not going to necessarily help all the time. Once a quarter is perfectly fine. But if you want to be more active, that's fine as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good reminder, because I was getting into that habit too, and the market's been moving a lot lately with everything that's happening in the world. And so then it's like you log in and you see like a big dip and you're like, man, and it's like, and it's like, this is like such a downer for the day. So it's better when you can have that wide lens. You can be like, okay, well, it dipped a little bit, but like in the grand scheme of things, like it was really only a little. So that's
Yeah.
a really good reminder for all of us.
Very good tip. I think we just rewrote an old money rule.
I think
Dare
we
I
did.
say.
Okay.
Basically, don't wait to start planning for retirement, because if you want to retire at all, you need to start now, if not yesterday. And so for a doable action, top tip that our listeners can take today, as the ultimate dad advice giver, what would be your advice for someone in their 20s, fresh out of college, on investing right now?
On investing right now, just start. Whether it's with an app, whether it's with an advisor, whether it's with your credit union, just start and set it up automatically. If it's $5, great. If it's more than $5, even better. But just get started and set it up to do it automatically.
Okay, and then I have another question, which
Yep.
I wasn't going to do, but on the flip side of that coin, if it's somebody in their 50s who's
Mhm.
never met with an advisor in retirement, not really sure what their employer offers, what should they do?
Uh,
Call you,
Ye-
Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, either review what you've got from your employer and make sure that if you've got something that you get started. If you don't have something with your employer, meet with an advisor and let them help you go through your options to save. And it's never too late. you will greatly affect your financial future, even if you start in your 50s. It is absolutely never too late, because this is money that you're putting in an envelope, in effect, for yourself 15, 20 years down the road. And so it's never too late.
Great advice.
When Dave's talking about his 20s, I just remember when I got my first job, my mom was like, "You're for sure enrolling in this 401k." She's like, "It's money that you won't miss if you never see it." And now every year I go in and like I review and I make those changes as like my income has increased. And so I think that's such good advice. And even if I couldn't do a lot then, like every year, the more you do, it's like it is never too late to you bump it up 1% or add an extra $5.
And my biggest regret, this is such a good call out, because my biggest regret, I will say, is City and County Credit Union offers a pension plan. And I remember starting at the credit union thinking I was only going to be here a year. It was going to be short lived. It's been 11 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't start the pension, and I never asked enough questions to figure out if it was for me. People were trying to tell me, and I was asking actually my financial advisor at the time, who is not my advisor now, and it wasn't recommended to start it. And it was, now looking back, knowing I could have got all my money out. I mean, hindsight 2020, just make sure you have somebody you trust. And I couldn't recommend Dave enough, actually, for what you do for us and our members, because if I would have taken that advice, I would have been sitting on a beach at retirement a lot earlier than what I will be doing now.
And Dave does this like such a good job of breaking things down like a real like human. Like he really makes it digestible and understandable. And I appreciate that, because this stuff can be really confusing and there's a lot of information and tax code and so many things that go into it. So he's a great resource to have.
And how do people get in touch with you? We can drop all of your details below, but if there's a certain way you want to, bring it to.
Phone call or email is probably the easiest. I've got a dedicated text number as well. Do we want to
fancy? Shout it out.
Give that out. So direct number would be 651-765-6787. Email would be D Edelman, EDELMAN @servionfa.com. Dedicated text line for compliance purposes would be 651-237-2700.
Awesome. And we'll make sure all of that is linked in the bio of this episode too, so you can get in touch with Dave. Easy peasy.
Okay.
All right. We're going to head into our Pink Pour segment next. Welcome back to our Pink Pour segment. This is the segment where the questions get a little bit faster and the cocktails or mocktails get a little bit stronger. So Bailey, what are we drinking today?
We are drinking, I love this name, an investment julep. I and Lucie have a little bourbon. Dave has to work later, so he's mocktailing it up. Don't want to get you in trouble, but it is delicious thanks to our resident bartender, Avery. She created some delicious cocktails so we can put you on the hot seat. Ready?
Ready?
Okay, kicking it off. What is one thing that you encourage your clients to splurge on even while they're saving for retirement?
One word, experiences. Whatever fires them up, lights them up, however small it needs to be, if it's on a budget, you have to do something that just lights you up. Otherwise you won't keep going with the other stuff, with the saving part of it. So
what lights you up, Dave?
I, as a former athlete, college athlete, I played tennis. I love getting out. I try to play 3 times a week. And so I love being out there. Yep.
I love it. Wait, are you a pickleballer too, or just strictly
I've
tennis?
played pickleball and
Okay.
I see why everybody loves it. But I have time to play tennis. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
just, when I have more time, I'll play some pickleball. Yeah. It's fun.
Okay, right on.
Oh, sorry, my turn. Yep. Panic. Top tip for new investors.
Just kind of, we talked about it before, just get started, no matter what that is, whether that's with an advisor, whether that's through an app, just get started and set it up automatically. Just find a way to start.
Make it happen.
Yep.
I love it. All right, this next one, I think Bailey and I shared some of our blunders today that we made when we were younger. So can you share one financial decision that you wish you could go back and change?
I could probably share a whole bunch, but probably just more of a structure. When I was young and starting out, I wish I would have set goals and put timelines on them earlier.
Yeah.
Because I know once I did that, it drove my decision making and helped me get to where I wanted to get to. So just having that vision and putting a date to those things.
That's great advice. Really good advice. Cryptocurrency, yes or no?
As a part of an overall investment plan, probably, yeah.
Really? I need to get my life together. We'll talk after.
Yeah. It's probably eventually going to be in people's portfolios, and maybe in people's portfolios already that they may not know
Sure.
in some form. So
Good point. Very good point.
Best part of being an advisor.
best part of being an advisor would be seeing the impact that I can have in somebody's life, and whether it's year over year, sometimes it's day over day, just seeing somebody get it, seeing somebody accomplish goals. It's really gratifying.
I have a really hard one for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What is your favorite credit union?
Well,
Remember, we're making you cocktails.
that would be city and county credit union.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
Cheers to
Cheers.
city and counties. Go ahead. Sorry.
I know we talked a little bit about your kids off camera, but what is like your most proud moment for each of your kids?
Oh, great question.
Wow, that is a great question. Most proud moment for my oldest would be he had some struggles as a freshman in college, and really kind of fell on his face, for lack of a better term, and he just completely turned it around, and I'm just super proud of him for that.
Yeah.
That'd be my proudest moment for my oldest. My youngest, he is a very quiet kid, very reserved, and just seeing him grow and come out of his shell and just become the person that he's becoming, that's what I'm most proud of.
That is a great way to end. Wow. I hope they're listening before Father's Day so they get you a great gift, which we actually didn't talk about. So maybe I do have one more. When you have kids and you're thinking about investing for them or preparing for college,
Yep.
Is that something you also can help with?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And so the most common thing that we use is a 529 plan. That's going to be an education specific plan, but it's pretty broad. It can even cover things that are in grade school. If you have private school tuition, if you have some kind of technical or vocational, it covers that. It covers college, covers a whole lot of things, and it gives tax advantages that allows parents to save more for their kids than if they did outside of that 529 account. So yes, absolutely.
I realize that should have been before the pink pour, but when podcasts
Okay.
start filling, the questions become a lot easier miraculously. But I can't thank you enough for being here, Dave. Like we said, Dave is the best dad advice that you're going to get on investments and just getting the support you need to create your good plan for retirement. And so we'll make sure his contact information is listed, as well as the cocktail version and mocktail version of the investment julep. And with that, we will see you on the next episode of The Money Rewrite. Cheers.
Cheers.